Is Pedro Neto going to be one of the biggest Premier League transfer stories of the near future? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is going to centre around the Wolves winger and star man known as Pedro Neto, as speculation in recent days and weeks has really begun to snowball and gather momentum over where the future of the Portuguese winger will lie. Of course, currently he's playing for Wolves. He's having a brilliant season for Gary O'Neill's side, but the speculation has begun. Where will Pedro Neto be playing his football in the future, as it seems that Wolves are preparing for major interest from other places and other clubs that are higher up in the Premier League table and higher up in the Premier League kind of league table and everything, as well as obviously trying to maintain within the guidelines of FFP, which could really hinder Wolves' hand in transfer negotiations. Of course, we're going to be talking all about Pedro Neto, about Wolves, about everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you lot to get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That will make for great and interesting reading down below, I'm sure. So do get involved down there on anything to do on this topic, on Pedro Neto, Wolves, and the clubs that he's been linked to, the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham and even Liverpool. Where do you think is probably best for the Wolves winger to go? All of that stuff, I'm sure, will make for great and interesting reading, like I say. So please do get involved. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Pedro Neto. Now, he's had a few unbelievable seasons as far as Wolves are concerned, and he's probably became one of the better players outside of the big six or the usual top six, however you want to perceive that big six in the Premier League. He's probably one of the biggest stars in the Premier League outside of those six teams. Wolves have got a real diamond here in Pedro Neto. This is a guy that for the past few years, despite having a few injuries, which have been pretty big ones that have kind of hindered his season a little bit, he has been brilliant. He has been fantastic to watch. He brings a lot to that Wolves team in terms of pace, power, creativity. This guy is constantly creating opportunities. He's constantly in the top bracket for Premier League chances created. That kind of stat that goes flying around that only really has Kevin De Bruyne and Trent Alexander-Arnold as main contributors to that stat, and is a main permanent fixture within the top echelons of that particular stat. Pedro Neto is either within there or he's not far off, and that is fantastic for a guy who is basically a major player and a major cog in that Wolves setup, and has been for, like I say, the past few years. This is a guy that has been highly talked about, highly raved about. I think injuries maybe have hindered him a little bit in terms of maybe development. Maybe like Wolves may have lost him earlier if certain injuries didn't happen for the past couple of years. But there's no doubt about it. This guy has raw talent. This guy has absolute quality oozing from his speed, from his pace, from his power, from his creativity standpoint. It is all a very, very promising prospect to have within any team. And the teams that are being talked about as being linked to him are the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham and Liverpool. And it's easy to see why those teams would want him, because I think he could be a real asset and a real positive influence to any one of those squads that takes him. I think he can really improve the quality and quantity of all of them squads with just what he brings to the table in terms of his attributes and ability and talent, and obviously overall quality right now. He's 24 years of age. He's still got many years left in the tank in terms of obviously reaching his prime and then actually being within his prime. And I feel like with obviously playing, if he does get the move away from Wolves, with all due respect to Wolves, as good as what they have been this season, and as good as what Gary O'Neill's done and the job that he's done at Wolves in obviously being thrown into the deep end right at the beginning of the season, he's been brilliant. He's obviously found Pedro Neto to be brilliant within his style of play and within the way that he wants to play. with all due respect to them, to Wolves and the manager, he will be around better players. If he goes to the likes of Arsenal, if he goes to the likes of Liverpool, or even I think Chelsea's name may have been mentioned as well to a certain extent, he will be around individually better players that can obviously enhance him. He can evolve his game from there. He can evolve his game under, with all due respect again, under a better manager, maybe under a more promising manager. Whatever the case may be, that may be what we are looking at here in terms of Pedro Neto. Now, in terms of obviously the overall transfer story on this, in terms of making a move and everything all stems from seemingly Wolves wanting to obviously stay clear of FFP rulings. We all know that the Premier League are cracking down on these FFP rulings and obviously trying to really clamp down and make examples of teams that are to be found in breach of these financial fair play rulings. And it seemingly is suggesting, everyone is seemingly suggesting that Pedro Neto could be sacrificed in order for Wolves to maintain themselves in their financial aspects and everything else in between within those FFP guidelines. It's being said that that could be one of the major reasons why Wolves are facing a losing battle. Not just because obviously the teams that are above them are coming in for him, and the teams that are bigger than Wolves, with all due respect again, and that are fighting for the big trophies are all circulating this deal and keeping it on their radar, but also because of the way that Wolves are, like a lot of teams I would imagine, are seemingly flying close to dangerous FFP breaches. And that's seemingly what the suggestion is from the likes of the Daily Mail, who are seemingly suggesting that that could be the major contributing factor to why Wolves are considering to sell him. Now, if that is the case, then it's advantage to the buying team, because if Wolves have got this brilliant asset to sell, but they are flying close, how close, I'm not sure, to breaching those FFP rulings. If they are looking to desperately get rid of him so they're not in breach of that, and they're looking to obviously bolster their squad by sacrificing a big name player, sacrificing a player that is going to fetch in a very big transfer bid, that obviously puts the advantage in the hands of the buying team, in which they can then play a little bit more hardball than maybe what they would if, say, there was no contributing factor to FFP, if there was plenty of years left on the Portuguese winger's contract, and, you know, the Wolves had a bit of resilience about them that said, he's not going anywhere. You're going to have to fork out the money, and then we're going to put a big price tag on that, because we know players like him are not exactly growing on trees. Wingers that are as quick as him, as talented as him, as creative as him, they don't come around much too often in that overall sort of consistency. That is what Pedro Neto brings to this team. That's what Pedro Neto can bring to any team, in my opinion, and that is why he's being chased by some of the biggest and best teams from particularly in the Premier League. The likes of your Arsenals, your Liverpools, I think it may be even Manchester City's name I remember reading may be interested. But yes, so on and so forth. We know this guy oozes quality, has sheer talent, and is overall just exciting to watch. That's the highest compliment you can give a footballer. He's just exciting to watch. He, as a winger in that position, he's someone that can get you out of your seat, whether he's running with the ball, whether he's running off the ball, whether he's launching counterattacks, whether he's putting dangerous crosses into the area. We've seen it time and time again. Whenever we've watched Wolves, we've always focused on this guy as being the main guy, and he's constantly delivering. Consistent performances, whether he's assisting or goal scoring, or even when he's not, he's consistent in all aspects. This season, he's got 16 appearances, he's scored twice, and he's assisted 9 times. That's quality. For Wolves, and he could have so much more as well. This is the frustrating thing that we've all said about Wolves all season. Wolves played some really good stuff, and when you look at Pedro Neto's stats in terms of chance creation and all of that stuff, he's one of the highest ranked, not just in terms of that Wolves team, but in terms of obviously the Premier League as a whole. If Wolves had someone earlier on in the season that could finish off the chances that he in particular was creating, or the Wolves team in general was creating, this guy could have had so many more goal contributions to his name. Now, imagine that with better attackers in front of him. Imagine him in a Liverpool side with, I don't know, the likes of Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, Darwin Núñez. As a Liverpool fan myself, I really like this guy, and I would personally be pleading with Liverpool to go in for him this summer. I don't think it's necessarily the case. I feel like Arsenal's name has been linked the strongest, and I feel like Arsenal could do with some depth in the wing area. Do I think it's a main priority for Arsenal? Not necessarily, but at the same time, I understand why, if this player was going for the kind of price tag that you would maybe imagine him going for, with the way that obviously it's saying that Wolves are in many respects are not necessarily desperate to get rid of him, but they're more leaning towards getting rid of him than they are keeping him for FFP rulings, if that is to be believed. I can understand why Arsenal would go for him. And if Arsenal can bolster their attacking options with him, and then maybe with a clinical enough striker, you can understand why those two in particular would work, if it is a good enough striker that they would bring in as well. But, like I say, this guy excites me, he intrigues me, and I feel like this is definitely a potential transfer to keep your eyes on for the future. I'm very much looking forward to this one, seeing how much it plays out. I'm not sure Wolves fans are exactly, but we all, I guess if we had to be honest, we all knew this day was kind of coming, in which the bigger teams of the Premier League would obviously be circulating around this potential deal, and obviously Wolves will be facing a losing battle to keep him. But overall, Pedro Neto's name is certainly one to keep your eyes on, not just for the remainder of the season and whatever Wolves' season has to offer for the rest of the campaign to come in terms of his performances, but in terms of where his footballing future may lie, with many people predicting that Wolves are facing a losing battle to keep him, not just in terms of the teams that are circulating around this deal, but in terms of FFP rulings as well. And also in terms of just seeing where this exciting talent goes for the future. How he's going to bolster a squad. Because remember, Wolves play a bit more directly to the likes of your Arsenals and your Liverpools and your Tottenhams and your Chelseas and everybody else. But this guy certainly does have the potential to be as quick as playing against someone with a high line and playing on the counter attack, but also has the creativity factor to maybe carve open and make many opportunities against defences which are sat deep in a sort of low block and can unlock a very stubborn defence. So therefore, I think this is a fantastic deal for whichever team gets him. I think he can slot into a number of different styles of play and different formations and different opportunities and all of that kind of good stuff. I, for one, really like Pedro Neto. I plead that Liverpool go in for him this summer. But I'm not holding my breath too much, depending on obviously what the managerial situation is and everything else. But I think if you're an Arsenal fan, maybe, just maybe, might be time to get excited about the prospect of Pedro Neto being at the Emirates for next season. Look, I'm interested to know what this transfer story is left to unfold. I think this is definitely one to keep your eye on. Very much looking forward to seeing the future of Pedro Neto. But of course, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Pedro Neto situation? Do you see him leaving Wolves this summer? And if so, where do you see his footballing future lying? Will it be at an Arsenal, at a Tottenham, at a Liverpool, at a Man City, at a Chelsea? Where do you think Pedro Neto's future lies as a footballer? Would love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great interesting reading down below. Sure, it'll make, for great interesting reading, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.